They called it a missing person case. It wasn't. By the time I walked into that apartment, something in the air had already confessed. The smell told the truth before anyone else did. What I found in the fridge was only the ending. Before it had already gone bad, the landlord came in first. Middle-aged, short, round face, eyes too awake. He said he wanted to report something strange. What kind of strange? I asked. The lock's been changed, he said. By my tenant. She hasn't paid rent for a month, and now the smell. He stopped. What smell? Something rotten. I work at a funeral home. I know that smell. I looked at him again. Funeral home, that explained his calm voice. You're sure it's not food? He shook his head. No food smells like that. It's heavy. All right, I said. Let's go. We drove to the building. He didn't talk much. Only said, she was quiet. A girl in her 20s. Worked as a designer. Paid on time until last month. The apartment door was locked with a new cylinder. He stood back. See? Not mine. She changed it. You tried calling. No answer. Her phone's dead. Messages unread. Neighbors, they said she hasn't been seen for weeks. Then you should have called sooner. He looked down. I thought she just left. Until the smell. I could smell it too faint, sweet, and wrong. Step aside, I said. He did. The lock gave after a minute. The air came out first, thick and stale. Inside looked tidy to tidy. Table wiped clean, sofa covered, curtains drawn. A layer of dust on the TV. She cleaned before she left, he said behind me. You've been in here before? No, I wouldn't. Then, how do you know? He didn't answer. He kept sniffing, his nose twitching toward the kitchen. Stop that, I said. It's coming from there, he whispered. I walked to the kitchen door. The smell grew stronger. The fridge was humming. You said you work at a funeral home? He nodded. Open it, I said. He froze. You open it, detective. I already know what's inside. I pulled the handle. The bulb was out. The smell hit like a wall. Inside, pale against the dark, lay a hand. Male, broad knuckles, 2 fingers bent back. I shut the door. The landlord stepped out into the hall and started coughing. I called it in. When the team arrived, he sat on the sofa, breathing through his shirt. I stood by the door, waiting for the medical examiner. Coroner came, gloves already on. Fridge, again, fridge, I said. He nodded. How long? Maybe 3 weeks. He went in with his assistant. A few minutes later, he called out, You might want to stay out here. I stayed. They worked quietly. Metal against tile. Plastic rustling. The sound told enough. Coroner came back. Male. No torso. That's all. For now. The landlord looked up. She wouldn't do that. She was polite. I sat down opposite him. When did you last talk to her? 5 weeks ago. She said she'd pay late. Then nothing. I went twice. Door closed. I left messages. You have her ID, contact, anything. In the lease. I'll bring it. He rubbed his forehead. You think she's dead? I don't know yet. He nodded slowly. If it's a body, detective. I told you I know the smell. I wish I didn't. At the station, we ran prints from the fridge handle. To sets male and female. The female matched the tenant, Lena Voss, 27, designer, freelance. No missing persons under that name. The male print matched no one. The landlord brought the lease. She was neat. Paid cash. Never complained. Ever mention anyone, family, boyfriend. She once said someone kept calling. She blocked him. Name. He shook his head. Didn't tell me. Only said he made her tired. We traced her last phone activity 3 weeks ago. The last card transaction. Bleach. Garbage bags. Takeaway noodles. 3 days later, she bought a bus ticket heading south. No disguise, no false ID. The line in my notes read, left openly. Didn't care to hide. 2 days later, she was found in a coastal town, sitting in a small motel lobby, reading a local paper. She went quietly. When they cuffed her, she said, You're late. In the interview room, she looked smaller than in her photo. Hair unwashed. hands folded neatly on the table. No tears. I sat across from her. I'm Detective Miles. You know why you're here. She nodded. You found the fridge. Her voice was steady, calm enough to make the air feel thin. Tell me what happened, I said. She looked at the recorder light, then back at me. Do I have to start from the beginning? Yes. She nodded again. Then I'll tell it all. And she did, flat, direct, almost gentle. He was my classmate in college, she said. Nice at first. Everyone liked him. He liked me too much. I said no. He waited outside my dorm every morning. When I finally said yes, he cried. She paused, as if checking if I'd stop her. I didn't. At first it was normal. Then he started asking where I went, who I was with. If I didn't answer, he'd appear. Once, when I told him to leave me alone, he hit himself. Hard. In front of me. Until his nose bled. Said he deserved it. I wrote without looking up. After graduation we lived together. He stopped working. I paid rent. He watched his phone all day. When I told him to move out, he hit the wall with his head. Blood everywhere. He cried. I cleaned it. Why stay? She gave a small smile, because he made me feel responsible for him. When did it change? When I left. She folded her hands tighter. I moved to this city. Cheap place. No one asked questions. Then one night I woke up, and he was standing by the bed, holding a knife. Her voice didn't rise. She told it like reading weather data. He tied me up. Said it was so I wouldn't hurt myself. For days he stayed. Ordered food. Slept beside me. Watched me eat. Watched me breathe. What about neighbors? No one close enough to hear. She looked past me, eyes fixed on the corner of the wall. Then one night his phone dropped. I saw the screen. It said how to dispose of a body. After that, I stopped sleeping. She took a breath, slow and careful. I waited. I broke a glass, hit a shard. 2 nights later, I cut the rope. He was asleep. I thought of running, but he'd find me. He always did. I didn't speak, so I used his knife, she said quietly. I stopped him first. Silence filled the room like water. She looked at her hands again. I cleaned everything. Took what I could carry. I left the rest. I didn't want to see his face again. Why not leave sooner? I was already gone, just not free. That was her story. Every check we ran matched it. Her prints, the knife, the purchase receipts. The body fit her timeline. The landlord came to sign more papers the next day. His eyes were red. She seemed so normal, he said. Always polite. You'd never think people rarely look like what they're carrying, I said. He nodded. Do you think she's evil? I didn't answer. I pressed the button on the recorder. The red light blinked once. Go on, I said. Lena looked calm, too calm. You want to know why I didn't call the police first, she said. Yes. Because I didn't think you'd come in time. Because he'd already decided. Decided what? That I belonged to him. Alive or dead didn't matter which. Her voice was soft, but every word landed heavy. How long was he there before he killed him? 5 days, she said. He watched me sleep. Ate beside me, never shouted, just looked. The kind of look that made me forget how to breathe. She lifted her wrists slightly. Thin scars ran along the skin, pale and healed. He tied me with wire the first night. Said it was safer that way. Said he'd untie me when I understood him. I asked if she tried to escape. She gave a small laugh. Every night in my head. Never worked in real life. I kept the question short. She answered in full. Tell me about the last night. She didn't blink. I waited until he was half asleep. His knife was on the table. I used the glass shard to cut the wire. It took hours. My hands were bleeding. I thought he'd hear the sound. He didn't. She stopped for a moment. I thought she might break down. She didn't. When I got free, I sat there and looked at him. I thought, maybe I can run. Then I saw the knife, and I remembered what he searched for online. How to dispose of a body. Then I picked it up. I didn't plan. It just happened once. Then twice. After that, I don't remember. Do you know how many times she shook her head? No. I remember the blood. How quiet it was after. That's all. You didn't call anyone. I cleaned. I couldn't leave him like that. Why clean? She looked straight at me. Because it was my home. I didn't want it to look like his. There was no pride in her voice. Just exhaustion. When did you decide to leave? In the morning, I made coffee. Sat there for a long time. Then I packed. I left what didn't matter. The body. The fridge was all I had. I wanted it cold. I couldn't stand to smell him. Her tone didn't change when she said it. No trembling, no shock. Like she'd moved beyond the reach of guilt. I asked, "You realize what you did was murder?" "I realize I'm alive because of it," she said. "If that counts as murder, then yes." After the interview, I sat in the corridor outside, writing down her words. Every line read like a confession and a plea at once. Coroner passed by with his report. "She's telling the truth," he said quietly. "Everything fits the timing, the wounds, even the way she tried to clean. It's not insanity, it's survival." I nodded, though I wasn't sure if that made it easier or worse. Back in the observation room, the captain watched the recording. "She's composed," he said. "Too composed." "She's empty," I said. He looked at me. "You sound sorry for her." I didn't answer. We charged her formally. She signed the papers without reading. When they took her fingerprints again, she didn't resist. As she stood to leave the room, she turned to me. "Detective," she said. "Yes. Do you ever get used to seeing people like him?" "Like who?" "The ones who smile while they break you." I didn't know what to say. She didn't wait for an answer. Ralph came back that afternoon for more questioning. He looked nervous, not because he was guilty, but because he couldn't believe what had happened inside his property. "I still can't sleep," he said. "Every time I close my eyes, I smell it again." "You've worked with corpses," I reminded him. "That's different," he said quickly. "Those people are supposed to be dead." He rubbed his temples. "You think she planned it?" "No. I think she stopped waiting." He nodded slowly, like that made sense. "I used to fix faces for funerals," he said. "You learn that people always want the last look to be peaceful. Maybe that's what she wanted for herself. I didn't write that in the report." A week later, the lab finished processing the knife. 2 sets of prints, hers and his. No sign of anyone else. The wounds matched the weapon. The blood patterns on the walls matched her story exactly. Everything pointed to a single night, a single act. The prosecutor wanted to call it premeditated. I called it something else in my notes. The moment she stopped being afraid, they let me see her one last time before transfer. She looked the same calm, pale, a faint line of bruising under her eye that was fading now. "You'll probably get 10 to 15, I said. "I know," she said. "That's less than forever." I asked her if she regretted it. She thought for a moment. "No. I regret not running earlier. I regret loving someone who only knew how to own things." She smiled, not cruelly. "You look tired, Detective." "I am." "Go home," she said. "Don't stay here too long. The walls, listen." That night, I drove back to the apartment building. The door was sealed with police tape, but the hall smelled of disinfectant. Now someone had repainted the frame. Inside, everything was gone, fridge removed, floor stripped, curtains open. Just another unit ready for the next tenant. I stood there a long time, trying to picture her living here paying rent, watering a plant, pretending she was free. It was easy to forget that the story started long before the fridge. On my way out, Ralph met me by the stairs. "They said I can rent it again once the paperwork clears," he said. "You will. I need the money," he hesitated. "But I keep thinking about that girl. How she looked so ordinary when she signed the lease." "She was ordinary," I said. "That's the problem," he sighed. "Maybe I'll change the lock." "You should," I said. He laughed once. "You know, Detective, working with the dead is easier. They don't scare you half as much as the living." He left. I sat in my car outside the building, watching the light from the windows flicker on and off. People moving behind curtains. All of them alive. All of them thinking they understood love. I wrote my final note before driving off. The quiet ones always tell the loudest stories. The paperwork dragged on for weeks. Statements, photos, cross-checks, chain of evidence. Every night I wrote the same case number on a new form, and the number began to feel like a heartbeat I couldn't stop hearing. The coroner's final report came in first. Cause of death: multiple stab wounds, one fatal through the neck. Time of death: approximately 21 days before discovery. The word homicide appeared only once, small, factual, unblinking. The captain read it and closed the folder. "That's it," he said. "We're done." But I wasn't. A few nights later, I found myself replaying her interview. Her voice flat, steady head stuck in my head. Not what she said, but how she said it. No hate, no pride, no regret, just relief. She described every action as if it were simple maintenance. Cut the rope, take the knife, clean the floor. Like surviving was a task, not a choice. I started wondering how long she had been dying before that night, inch by inch, apology by apology. Sometimes survival looks like murder. Sometimes murder looks like self-respect. I asked coroner once how he separates the work from the thought of it. He said he doesn't. He just keeps moving his hands until the picture makes sense. That's what I did with the case file. Every night I opened it again, even though everything had already been proven. The photo of the hand from the fridge, blurred, forensic, unemotional, felt less like evidence and more like punctuation. A full stop at the end of a long sentence. The apartment photos showed no blood, no chaos. Just clean surfaces, things neatly arranged. Even horror can be tidy if you give it time. The prosecutor called me in before the hearing. He wanted to know if I believed her. "Yes," I said. He frowned. "Belief isn't part of the file." "I know." He tapped his pen. "You sound too close to it." "Maybe, but she told the truth. Doesn't make it right." "No," I said. "It just makes it real." He didn't like that answer. Most people don't. I saw her again in court. She wore a gray prison jumper. No makeup, no emotion. When the judge read the charge, she nodded once. When asked if she wanted to make a statement, she said no. Everything's been said. The man's mother was there too, a small woman with a scarf over her head, trembling hands clutching a photo. I wanted to hate her son for what he'd done, but sitting there, she looked like someone who had already lost every version of him that mattered. When the sentence came, 15 years, Lena didn't flinch. She just turned to the window, as if checking the weather. As she was let out, she looked at me briefly and said, almost kindly, "Thank you for listening." Then she was gone. The case closed quietly. New tenants moved into the building. Ralph kept his word, changed the lock, painted the walls, replaced the fridge. I passed by once, months later. The hallway no longer smelled of bleach. He waved when he saw me. "All cleaned up," he said. "Yeah," I said. "Looks new." "New enough," he said, though his eyes stayed on the floor. Funny thing though, every time I open a fridge now, I hold my breath first. I didn't know what to tell him. Some habits are scars. Back at the precinct, the captain asked if I was ready for another case. I said yes, but it wasn't true. You don't really leave stories like that. They follow you not in nightmares, but in the quiet ways people look at each other. You start noticing things. Couples on the street, walking too close, too quiet. A hand resting on a shoulder a second too long. Someone laughing while their eyes stay flat. Love, fear, control, they blur together if you stare at them long enough. I started writing notes, not for the file, but for myself. Love begins with care. Care becomes control. Control becomes ownership. Ownership becomes violence. It's not sudden. It grows like mold in a room that's never aired out. People think monsters announce themselves with shouting and rage. Most don't. They whisper. They apologize. They promised her safety. She promised her safety. She promised him patience. Neither one survived the deal. One night, after everyone had gone home, I opened the case file one last time. The photo of Lena stared up at me, her intake picture. Eyes tired but clear. I wrote one final line on the back page. She wasn't born to kill. She was taught to disappear, and killing was the only thing she ever did that made her visible again. Then I closed the folder. People always ask what lessons we take from cases like this. I don't give lectures. But if someone insists, I tell them what I've learned. If someone wants to know where you are every hour, run. If someone says they can't live without you, believe them. They'll start by killing the parts of you that say no. If someone loves you in a way that feels like a cage, It's still a cage, even if the bars are painted gold. And if the air in your home ever feels too still, too clean, too quiet, listen. Houses remember. Locks don't just keep danger out. Sometimes they're the only thing that keeps you in. That's what I wrote at the bottom of the report before sending it to archives. 3 words, nothing more. Change the lock.